So you just had a report that came out and it was a cross-platform report, and specifically there was a data point that was of interest, and that was that TV viewership is down 3 minutes on average, whereas the last one I saw from last year was it was up 22 minutes per month. So we're seeing a little bit of variance here. So I would love for you to talk to that.
Yeah. So I think first of all we should put it in perspective, right? So, TV viewership has been growing incredibly for decades, right? And when you look at the number of minutes people spend watching TV today compared to other mediums, it's huge, right? So I think it's funny. I'm the Nielsen guy, and I'm terrible with numbers. I'll tell you this right off the bat. But it's north of 150 minutes a quarter people spend watching video on TV, and it's about 150 hours, about 5 hours online, right? So you're talking about a 30. I can do that math there. It's about 30 times, increment. So I think when you look at TV, it's still by far the largest place people are looking at video. The other thing, though, is that I think last year we believe to some extent video saw a real pinnacle. Not that it's not going to go back there, but due to the economic environment, weather conditions that happened last year, it actually created kind of a really good environment for people to watch more video. And so if you, across the board this year, actually the video, if you look at year over year, actually the video overall video viewership has actually declined slightly.
Really? Even with the tablet?
Yeah, so the different mediums are growing, and they're growing fast. The differential between last year and this year, it didn't accommodate all the difference.
Interesting. Okay, that's very insightful. So Rob spoke of, well, he alluded to multitasking and the value of inventory, specifically when the idea of the lean back captivating medium, right, has changed because you've got a second, a third, the secondary, tertiary device are distracting, right? I've heard it referred to. One of your colleagues from Vizu spoke to earlier in the week. We were using the word equivalency, right? So this is going to take us into this area of idea of sort of a rating point and how you value an audience and an equivalent medium. Like where do you start? Because that's really, I think, something that is going to be essential from a programmatic buying perspective.
Yes, definitely. So and I think you've heard it from everyone here today. By the way, I have to throw indecent adjacency in here because I love that term. But
do you like the indecent part or the adjacent
I just
part?
love the whole
Which one
thing.
is it?
But aside from that,
technically we could have something like that going on right now. So.
All right. Well, I'll throw a GRP on that and see what happens.
All right.
Yeah. So I think that as a starting point, the thing is you want to get a sense of reach across all your platforms, right? So it's not enough to say that I watch It's Always Sunny, which is probably an indecent adjacency right there. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I watch that, and I watch Beat TV because I love Beat TV, and I'm two different people because I watch it on different mediums, right? What you really want to understand is you want to understand your reach across all those mediums, and what that calls for is the lowest common denominator. And so that's where you heard a few people mention online campaign ratings that we launched earlier this year. That's really the baseline for it. I think the challenge is how you measure that, right? So if you think about, people like to think of TV as a less measurable medium in a lot of ways than online. But the truth is, if you look at TV, even now in a fragmenting world, most people watch the top 50 channels, right? So the long tail on TV is actually pretty short. And with a panel of 50,000 people, more or less, you actually get a pretty good read on things. Online, you can't do that. There are billions of websites. There's nonlinear advertising, and you look at all the different permutations of how that works, and a panel-based way of measuring things really kind of fails at some point along the way. So, our belief with online campaign ratings is not just that you need an equivalent GRP online, but that you need it at a granular enough level that it is meaningful in a world of real-time buying.
So I'm going to make an analogy. Television. I cut the cord, and then I met a very nice young man, and he really likes sports. So now I have to have television for that purpose. So that being said, I now have TV again. And there's a point at which of diminishing return where another additive channel means that much less for me, right? When are we near, will we, that fire hose analogy apply to data and media planning? Because we keep talking about throwing stuff on top and like, okay, now let's talk about GRP, but GRP for digital is going to be different, so we're going to call it OCR. And no, it's an eGRP. And this idea of all we're trying to do is normalize data so we can make an informed decision and compare apples to apples and dollars to dollars spent, and yet we just end up I think, adding more complexity. And guys like Andy have a hell of a job figuring out how to manage all that and make sense of it.
So I think there's a balance, but I think we're making it easier is the goal, right? So the funny thing is what you just said, most people would say the opposite. Isn't a GRP too simple, right? And the fact is, by narrowing it back down to an audience that you recognize, that you can compare across television and online, you make it a lot easier to make an equivalency between the two of them. I think where the questions come into, for me, are the opposite. It's people asking, are GRPs enough? And I think you mentioned this a little bit before, right? The truth is, there's a ton of really good data out there. The problem I find even within that data is we don't know a lot of times what data is good and what's not, right? So we use it to make a lot of informed decisions on things, but we don't always know if the data that we have is informed. So at the end of the day, this concept of big data, you either automate the heck out of it, right, with systems, and I believe you can do that to an extent, but at the end of the day, someone's actually got to be looking at it and making decisions on it, and it's got to be simple enough that they can actually do that.
We're in an interesting important time because we sort of have these like divergent, you know, sea changes of where digital is trying to dumb it down maybe a bit. I'm gonna take liberty and say that that's what an audience rating point is, but they're trying to normalize it, right? So digital's trying, and let's be honest, motivation is there are way bigger dollars to tap into if you're looking at TV budgets, right? So digital is trying to simplify, to use your language and lexicon, whereas the TV guys up funnel and what Andy was getting to on the planning side have to actually start to use more data to make decisions, but still the buying is only going to be done on a rating point, right? So you've got, you know, two completely different, you got one reverse engineering, one forward engineering, right? And how do those worlds come together?
Yes, I think it's a great question, but I'm going to start off by saying, is it bad to dumb it down a bit, right? So if you have a world of divergent data sets where everyone puts a different meaning in terms of whether something's successful or not, my question would be, are you really going to get an advertiser and a publisher going towards the same goal?
You want me to answer that?
Answer it.
Here's the issue I have with it. The issue I have consistently is that we are still in the paradigm of talking about the value that advertising and media creates for our clients being the language and the measurements of success of advertising and media, right? So a rating point is a rating point, but how does that actually connect to the business KPIs that affect a P&L and move the needle on that above the line or below the line for the client, right? So if that gets me closer, I'm all for rating points.
So I believe it does, right? When we look at the world, it's not, so I think it would be a misnomer to think that people who are doing planning on ratings points think just about a rating point, right? At the end of the day, you know, it's not like people who do TV buying are dumb, right? I mean, there are a lot of models that go into figuring out the rate, reach, and frequency you mean.
They always have way better tickets to events, though, than the digital dorks do.
But they're not as hip events. But you know, I think
I'm one of the digital dorks, to be very clear.
I think the important thing is that you understand the effectiveness on whatever it is you're trying to do. So if you're using media mix modeling to understand how your ratings points are impacting your sales, that's one mechanism for doing that. If your digital doesn't tie into that, but you're using it for all your other media types, then digital is immediately going to be discounted.
So if you're on the measurement side of things, if you were on the media planning buying side for online video today, what are the 3 most important tools in your arsenal to best serve your client?
Yeah, so I believe we look at the world in terms of what we call reach, resonance, and reaction, right? So the first question is, are you reaching the audience you want to reach? And that's where online campaign ratings and cross-platform campaign ratings come into play. Am I reaching the people we want to reach? And to your question before, we don't believe at the end of the day it's just going to be age and gender, but we need a starting point, right? It is not the perfect solution, but it's a place to start getting there. The second piece is resonance, right? So am I getting that top funnel impact that I want to have? Am I hitting the brand metrics that I want to hit? And so our acquisition of Vizu was really a huge stride in that direction. We've traditionally done this through mechanisms like Nielsen IAG, where we could measure TV and online and the combination of the two of them. That's great. These are studies that are delivered, you know, in the middle or when a campaign's done. They're not something that give you back results while a campaign's going. And in a world of RTB, you need that feedback coming in for it to be real. So that's the second piece of it. The third piece is reaction. And I think we have this semi set, right? And that for many years now, we've been looking at the sales impact sales lift you get from advertising across different media types. I think right now that's still one of those things where we deliver studies in middle or an end of the campaign. And ultimately, what we're aiming to do there is also start bringing it back into a more I'm not going to say real time, but a more actionable environment in a lot of ways.
Okay.